All right, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about seed oils, grains, saturated fat, and inflammation based upon what the actual evidence out there says. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you're not following or subscribed, please do so. And if you will be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I would greatly appreciate that. Now, I'm going to state up front because this is going to be really just about what the science is showing on all the wide varieties of studies around the world, not just individual countries. This is going to upset every diet extremist. Vegans, vegetarians are going to get pissed off. Okay, carnivores and the ketovores, they're going to get pissed off because they're all wrong. It's going to be in complete disagreement with all of these fringe movements that have gotten popular because their stuff is not really based on reality or science. The reality is, a lot of these foods cause less inflammation just in general than people think they do. Seed oils don't cause any. Grains don't cause any. Saturated fat in moderation doesn't cause any, especially from certain sources. In fact, from stuff like whole milk or whole Greek yogurt, doesn't seem to be any. Okay. Red meat that's non-processed, if it's in moderation, not large amounts, doesn't seem to cause any either. Now, that's going to really upset people because that kind of messes with everything. It's generally where you see this is when too much processed food is consumed, okay? And here's where the carnivores are going to get upset. Yes, bacon and butter are absolutely processed foods for purposes of the data we have on inflammation, but a steak is not. Okay, you understand where we're coming from here? A glass of whole milk is not. This is not a problem. All right, and this is supported by the data. This is not my opinions, not anything else. That's kind of what we see in the data. So this is where it gets tricky. A lot of the omega-6 stuff comes from these ideas on arachidonic acid. I've done videos on in the past where people thought, oh, grains do because there's a pathway by which we can convert linoleic acid into or into arachidonic acid, but it turns out that's in rodents. And in humans, it happens at such a small rate that it lowers inflammation. So what the studies tend to show is that omega-6 fats, particularly the common one, the essential one that we actually have to have, linoleic acid, that is an essential fatty acid, by the way. Doesn't cause inflammation. It's actually mildly anti-inflammatory. So the idea that it's going to convert into something that is inflammatory, arachidonic acid, that's the concern. Doesn't happen with grains. In fact, whole grains are anti-inflammatory when they're studied. Even whole wheat, whole oats, right, brown rice, all reduce inflammation. Again, both due to the presence of the fat, the presence of a lot of the antioxidants and phytonutrients in them, they reduce inflammation. Okay. We get over to things like seed oils. The idea is, the concern is because there's a lot of processing, a lot of the nutrients have been lost, that they're going to be bad. We can make a case for that. In fact, I'd argue that cooking foods in a bunch of seed oils is going to make you fat easy. But it doesn't cause inflammation, and people are like, it causes inflammation. You have no proof. It just doesn't happen. When it's studied in the lab, even when they're sampled, it doesn't happen. Now, again, I'm not telling you to eat a bunch of refined foods. I'm not telling you to fry your foods in these things. I don't think that you should. But if you go purely on the evidence, it's just not there. Okay, it's not there. And then people say, well, what about correlation? We started eating this and that. But it's not just the seed oils. If you can't blame seed oils, the one thing, for all the huge amounts of garbage that we eat in the West, it is just piles and piles and piles of garbage. And there's just as much butter, it's all this other stuff, all large amounts of refined flour, extreme amounts of refined sugar. Okay, there's where you want to look for a culprit for your inflammation. Ooh, there's your whole combination. How about consuming all this fat, including all this saturated fat that we eat? Because we do eat a lot of it still, with all these refined foods, with very refined grains, with massive amounts of refined sugar and stuff and everything, with a calorie surplus. So let's come over. There's your culprit. I'm going to jump over to the red meat in a minute. We'll come back to that. Okay, a large calorie surplus from all these ultra-processed, hyper-palatable foods. If you're looking for inflammation, right? If you're looking for a culprit for inflammation, there you have it. All right, it's pretty easy to figure out massive amounts of all these refined things all at once, plus all the excess saturated fat on top of it. Okay, because yes, saturated fat from more refined sources or in excess absolutely causes inflammation. Now that's what the data shows. So you come over, you look at the other things. It's inflammation from eating a steak. In a whole food diet, particularly when there's plenty of vegetables and other stuff, yeah, it doesn't seem to cause inflammation, right? We're not having problems from this. Like someone eating a sirloin steak, an 8 or a 12-ounce sirloin every day with a balanced whole food diet without a big calorie surplus, they don't have these inflammation problems. It doesn't occur. So even steak in moderation, I don't mean once a week. You get away with that every day. Tons of people won't have any inflammation. This is what data shows when measured. If they're not having a big calorie excess, they're not eating all this junk food, and they're just sticking with whole foods, and they still have fruits and vegetables and things in their diet. Okay? This is not where the problem is. The same thing. No one's getting inflammation because they had a glass or two of whole milk, especially when it's in the matrix of a whole food like that. And they're eating their fruits and vegetables and other stuff, the cardioprotective, the anti-inflammatory stuff. People have low inflammation. People who work out, okay, people who lift weights, who do cardio, who have still balanced diets, whole milk, bit of steak doesn't seem to cause any problems. Omega-6 fats don't cause any problems in this context either, okay? Butter does. When you look at studies on butter, you look at studies on refined red meat, right? These refined red meats that are ultra high in saturated fat because it's down to huge amounts of fat, huge amounts of nitrates. So your sausages, your bacon, your stuff like this causes inflammation, okay? You're not getting it from the steak. You're not getting it from the brown rice. You're not getting it from the nuts. You're not getting it from the seeds. This is not where we're getting it, especially none of these whole foods, okay? Right? You're getting it from the really refined stuff, the calorie excess, all the refined sugars, all this garbage combined with low activity, not having a lot of muscle mass, so people don't have good insulin sensitivity because they're sedentary, they don't have muscle, they're just fat. That's why they're heavy. No cardiovascular shape. Not enough vegetables and fruits in their diets. This whole combination, lack of antioxidants, this combination. People are, again, let me state that again, nobody's getting it from eating nuts and seeds. They're probably not even getting it from seed oils. They're not getting it from whole grains. They're not getting it from steak. They're not getting it from whole milk. These things are not causing the inflammation. It's this whole other combination of just large amalgamations of ultra-processed garbage with calorie excess. This is what's causing it.